Look at yourself.
Why you come throw the food on the ground? What did I do?
Every day it is the same wrapper.
But this is how I am comfortable.
Comfortable? You look like somebody's grandmother.
At least you for eat your food first before you go complain of cloth.
Who knows if you even bath before cooking the food?
I cook your favorite.
I will eat outside.
Grace's eyes filled with tears.
This was not the first time.
Grace picked her phone to call James. James, sitting in the restaurant eating, he saw his phone ringing. It was his wife Grace and refused to pick it.
Why he know they pick his call, Abi, he still dey angry with me.
I no go pick am, she go learn lesson.
God na wetin I do wrong again make him pick his phone.
That evening, James returned from work and met Grace waiting for him.
My husband, I want make we talk.
Talk about what?
Make we talk about us, me and you.
Again?
Grace gathered courage.
You know they spend time with me anymore. You know they pick my call anytime you go out. You they always they come late now wetin I do wrong.
No, tell me. What will I be doing with you wearing wrapper all the time? You no get other clothes. I be they tie this wrapper together.
I am still your wife.
Listen carefully and stay away from me or
From today, you move there because I can't stay in the same room with my grandmother.
What?
You heard me.
Move where?
The guest house.
You want me to leave our bedroom?
Exactly.
After years of marriage, after all my sacrifices, after standing beside you when you had nothing, this was my reward.
And so what? Are you the first person?
Okay, no problem.
James was surprised that she didn't argue. No shouting, no begging, just one word, okay, no problem. That night, Grace carried her bags to the guest house. As she closed the door behind her, tears rolled down her cheeks.
Finally. The house is quiet. No questions, no conversations, no wife. This is the best decision I've ever made.
It's time. He won't recognize me. Everything changes now.
After moving to the guest house, Grace cried herself to sleep. For the first time in years, she was completely alone. No husband, no companionship, just silence. She looked at her wedding photo hanging on the wall. Tears rolled down her face.
Where did we lose each other?
Suddenly her eyes fell on the mirror. She stared at her reflection. The old wrapper, the tired face, the sad eyes. The woman looking back at her was not the same woman who had married James years ago.
That night, she made a decision.
If nobody believes in me, I will believe in myself.
The next morning, Grace woke up before sunrise. Instead of crying, she took a notebook and wrote,
New life. Learn makeup. Learn confidence. Improve my appearance. Learn business. Become financially independent. Stop begging for attention. Then she
This is my beginning.
Meanwhile, James knew nothing. He continued enjoying life. Every evening he ate in expensive restaurants. Every weekend he spent time with friends. Whenever people asked about Grace, he simply replied, "She's in the guest house."
Grace enrolled in beauty classes. At first, everything was difficult.
My face! Sorry, madam. Today's practical class.
Afternoon, Grace visited a beauty salon.
Madam, are you ready for a complete transformation?
Yes.
Hours later, she looked in the mirror. She almost screamed.
Her hair looked elegant. Her face glowed. She looked younger, more confident, more beautiful. Grace touched her face.
Is this really me? It was always you. You just never saw it.
Back home, she started changing everything. The guest house became beautiful. New curtains, fresh flowers, furniture, books everywhere.
The next morning she woke up at 5 a.m. She wore a simple tracksuit. She searched for exercise videos online. The instructor said with 20 jumping jacks. Grace started. 1, 2, 3. By 10 she was already breathing heavily.
By 15, she collapsed on the floor.
My ancestors are calling me.
She laughed at herself, but she didn't stop. Every day she exercised, running in place, stretching, squats.
Walking around the compound. After a few weeks, she started losing weight. Her body became more fit. Her confidence increased.
Next came makeup lessons. At first everything was a disaster. One day she applied eyebrow pencil. The eyebrows became so thick she looked like an angry football coach. She stared at herself and screamed.
What is this?
Even she couldn't stop laughing.
Another day she applied lipstick. The lipstick crossed her lips and entered her cheeks. She looked like a clown. But she kept practicing, day after day, week after week. Eventually her makeup became beautiful and natural.
She went to the beauty salon to buy a new wig and fix on her hair.
She did her pedicure, manicure.
She did her makeup and came out look so beautiful and elegant.
She thanked the salon lady for making her look so beautiful again.
Thank you for making me look so beautiful again. You're welcome. Here is a weave-on comb, hair cream, and a bag to continue the process at home. Thank you so much.
Then she started learning catwalk.
Every evening she turned her guest house into a fashion runway.
Left, right, left, right.
Suddenly she stepped on a pillow. Boom! She landed on the floor.
Ouch!
But she got up again. Soon her walking style became graceful. And elegant. No more bending shoulders. Then came English lessons. This was the funniest part. Grace bought English-speaking books. Every day she stood before her mirror practicing.
Good morning, laddies and gentle goats.
She burst into laughter.
The next day she practiced again.
I am confident.
Instead, she said,
I am confused.
she laughed and until tears came out.
But she refused to quit. Every day she learned new words. Soon she could speak clearly and confidently.
Months passed. Everything about Grace started changing. Her posture, her confidence, her speech, her mindset.
She walked out of her room to the compound. The security guard noticed her and was shocked. Good morning, madam.
Good morning, how are you today?
The security guard almost dropped his keys. Is this the same Madame Grace?
One evening, Grace stood before her mirror wearing a beautiful dress. Her hair looked elegant. Her makeup was flawless. Her confidence filled the room. For a moment, she
couldn't recognize herself. Tears formed in her eyes, not tears of sadness,
Tears of pride.
because she finally saw something she had forgotten for years. Her value. Unknown to her, very soon her husband would return home. And when he sees this new Grace, the shock may be too much for him to handle.
The sun was setting as Meva James drove into his compound. He looked tired after a long day at work. As the gate opened, he noticed a beautiful woman standing near the flower garden. She looked like someone from a fashion magazine. James slowed down. His eyes widened. Who is this? He parked the car but couldn't stop staring.
Good evening.
Excuse me, who are you looking for? The woman smiled politely.
Good evening.
The voice sounded familiar.
Good evening.
Excuse me, who are you looking for?
I'm not looking for anybody.
Then why are you inside my compound?
Because I live here.
How do you mean you live where?
It's me, Grace the woman in the guest house.
For a few seconds, the world stopped. The birds seemed to stop singing. Even the wind became silent. James blinked once. My wife, Grace?
Yes.
The Grace that wears wrapper every day?
Yes.
That night, James could not eat. For the first time in months, he forgot about the restaurant food he loved so much. His eyes kept following Grace as she walked across the compound. Later that evening, Grace sat outside reading a book. James secretly watched from his window. Since when does she read books? He became curious. The next morning, things became worse. Much worse. Grace left the compound looking stunning. As she walked down the street, people greeted her.
Good morning, Madam Grace. You look beautiful today.
Why are people greeting her like that?
3 days later, disaster struck. James returned home and saw a young man helping Grace carry some shopping bags. Take care, Madam Grace.
The young man left.
James nearly exploded.
Thank you.
James nearly exploded. Who was that? Why was he smiling?
That night he could not sleep. He turned left, he turned right, he sat up, lay down, sat up again. Finally he stood by the window, looking toward the guest house. The same guest house he had sent her to. The same guest house he thought would make her miserable.
It had transformed her.
Instead,
Good morning. Can we talk?
Same man who once ignored her. The same man who once refused to eat her food. The same man who pushed her away.
I'm sorry. I have an online class in 5 minutes.
Then she closed the door, gently. James stood there frozen.
The woman who once begged for his attention had just rejected him. For the first time in years, Mr. James felt what Grace had felt: rejection, neglect, loneliness. And suddenly he realized something painful. He was beginning to fall in love with his wife all over again. But now, she was no longer chasing him.
Mr. James sat alone in his bedroom. For the first time in years, the room felt empty. Not because Grace was gone, but because he had finally noticed her absence. He looked at their wedding picture. Her young Grace was smiling brightly.
Back then, she had looked at him as if he were her entire world. A tear almost escaped his eye. How did we get here? Meanwhile, in the guest house, Grace was preparing for an online business class.
Her phone rang. It was her friend talking to her on the phone.
Grace, you sound happy these days. For the first time in years, I am learning to love myself.
The next day, James stopped at a flower shop. He bought the biggest bouquet he could find. When he arrived home, he walked nervously to the guest house.
These are for you.
Thank you.
James remained standing outside, confused. That was all. No excitement, no smile, no tears, nothing. She just collected it and went inside. Well, at least she collected it. I will try next time.
The following day, he went to the shop and bought an expensive handbag. Again, he went to the
Thank
guest
you.
house.
Thank you.
James stared at the closed door. That night, James couldn't sleep. He remembered something. Years earlier, Grace had cooked his favorite meal. She waited for hours. The food became cold. At midnight, he came home and will not eat his wife's food. Instead of appreciating her effort, he shouted at her and said, "I'm not hungry." That memory suddenly stabbed his heart.
The next morning, he entered the kitchen, something he rarely did.
Sir?
I'll handle it. He ignored her and started cooking. 2 hours later, the kitchen was a disaster zone. Burnt pots, broken eggs, flour everywhere. Even the dog refused to enter. But James finally managed to prepare something, not perfect, but edible, hopefully.
With the tray shaking in his hands, he walked to the guest house.
I made breakfast for you.
This was the same man who had refused to eat her food.
Now he was cooking for her. She slowly sat down, tasted the food. Suddenly she coughed.
The food was terrible, absolutely terrible.
But for the first time in years, she saw sincerity in his eyes.
Is it bad?
After the laughter faded, silence filled the room. Then James spoke. I am sorry for every insult.
I am sorry for every meal I rejected. I am sorry for every lonely night. I am sorry for sending you away. Years.
The truth is, I didn't realize your value until I almost lost you.
Grace had never seen him cry before, never.
Not even when his business failed years ago. Yet here he was, broken, vulnerable, regretful. Grace looked away. Tears rolled down her face too, and she said,
I loved you, James. I loved you when I wore wrappers. I loved you when you ignored me. I loved you when you stopped eating my food. I loved you even when you sent me away.
Grace wiped her tears.
But while you were pushing me away, I found myself. And I can never go back to being the woman who forgot her worth.
James nodded slowly. He understood. Love was not enough. Trust had to be rebuilt. Respect had to be rebuilt. Everything had to be rebuilt. As James stood to leave, Grace called his name.
James.
For the first time in months, she smiled warmly.
Not as a wife, not yet, but as a friend, a small beginning.
For weeks after apologizing, James tried his best to become a better husband. He greeted Grace every morning. He asked about her classes. He listened when she spoke.
One Saturday morning, Grace received an invitation to speak at a women's empowerment event.
I don't know if I can do it. You can. The old Grace couldn't, but the new Grace can.
That afternoon, Grace stood before hundreds of people.
I want to share my story with you. The story of pain, of rejection, and rebuilding myself.
Many women wiped tears. Some stood and applauded.
The story of rebuilding myself began in the darkest moments. I faced pain, loss, and doubt. But I rose, stronger, with grace. This is the power we all carry.
Thank you for hearing me.
After the event ended, a successful businessman named Daniel approached her and said, Madam Grace,
Yes.
I just want to say your story inspired me.
Thank you.
The way you turned your pain into growth is remarkable.
Thank you very much.
Shall we?
Yes, let's.
They exchanged a few words and left. Nothing more. Nothing inappropriate. Just respect.
Unfortunately, someone else witnessed the conversation. James. The moment he saw Daniel talking to Grace, his heart became uneasy. Not because they were doing anything wrong.
That night, James sat alone in the living room. His mind refused to rest. He remembered the countless times Grace had tried talking to him. The many times she wanted to share her dreams. The many times he ignored her. Now another person was listening. Another person was appreciating her. And suddenly he felt afraid, very afraid. For the first time in years, James went into their old photo album, page after page, memory after memory. There was Grace smiling beside him on their wedding day, Grace cooking in their first apartment,
Grace holding his hand when he lost money in business, Grace praying for him during difficult times, Grace standing beside him when nobody else did. James broke down.
He held one photograph against his chest crying and said,
My God, what have I done?
Meanwhile, Grace sat quietly in the guest house. She was also looking through old memories, not because she wanted to go back, but because healing often requires remembering. She saw pictures of happier days, days when James used to make her laugh, days when they shared dreams, days before bitterness entered their home. A tear rolled down her cheek. Despite everything, part of her still loved him.
The next morning, James knocked on her door. Grace opened it.
James?
He looked tired, as though he had cried all night.
He held out a small box.
What's this?
Open it.
Inside was an old silver ring. Very first ring he bought when they had almost nothing.
Oh, James, our first ring.
For you. Do you remember this?
Of course.
When I bought that ring, I promised to love you. I promised to respect you. I promised to protect your heart. And I failed.
His eyes filled with tears and said,
I would never ignore you. I would never reject your food. I would never send you away. I would never make you feel unwanted. Because the truth is, you were never the problem. I was.
Grace felt her heart tighten. For years, she had wanted him to understand. Now he finally did. But understanding came with pain. If I could go back. Then Grace said something that made James cry even harder. She stepped forward and gently held his hand. Not as a woman who had forgotten the pain,
But as a woman choosing forgives James.
James, the deepest wounds are not healed by time. They are healed when someone finally understands the pain.
James broke time in many years. He cried openly, not from weakness.
As they stood there, hand in hand, neither knew what the future would bring. But for the first time in a very long time, there was hope. Hope that broken things could heal. Hope that respect could return. Hope that love could live again.
First time in years, peace slowly returned to the compound. James and Grace were speaking again, not like husband and wife. Not yet, but like two people trying to find their way back to each other. Neither of them spoke for a while. Then Grace broke the silence and said,
James, there is still one question I need answered.
"What is it?"
Why?
Why what?
Why did you suddenly change? Why did you stop loving me? Why did you push me away?
The smile disappeared from James's face. Immediately, Grace noticed. His eyes became heavy, his hands started trembling. For years he had avoided this conversation. For years he had buried the truth.
But now there was nowhere left to hide. James stood up slowly.
Grace, there's something I never told you. Grace's heart began beating faster. A few minutes later, they sat inside the guest house.
James opened an old drawer. From inside, he pulled out a worn-out envelope. Grace looked confused.
What is it?
Grace slowly opened the envelope. Inside were hospital documents, medical reports.
Test results. She looked at them carefully, then suddenly her eyes widened. Her hands started shaking.
No.
Yes.
Grace continued reading. Years ago, many years ago, James had secretly visited a doctor. The results revealed something heartbreaking. According to the report, James had a medical condition that made it difficult for him to have children.
Grace's entire body froze. The room became silent. Her heart broke. Not because of the condition, but because he had carried the burden alone. James lowered his head.
After receiving those results, I felt like a failure. Tears rolled down his face. I felt ashamed. I felt less like a man. I didn't know how to tell you.
Grace stared at him in disbelief.
Years.
James continued.
Then family members started asking questions.
When are the children coming? Why is your wife not pregnant? Who is responsible? Every question felt like a knife.
I became angry, not at you, but at myself. But instead of facing my pain, I pushed away the person who loved me most.
Grace could barely breathe. Everything suddenly made sense. The distance, the insults, the bitterness, the coldness. Not excuses, but explanations.
James covered his face and cried. I hated myself, Grace. So every time I looked at you, I remembered my own pain. And instead of seeking help, I hurt you.
Grace's tears flowed freely. Years of confusion suddenly had answers. She stood up slowly, walked toward him, and placed her hand on his shoulder.
James looked up, his eyes swollen with tears, and
I don't deserve your forgiveness.
Grace shook her head. Then she said something that left him speechless.
James, when we got married, I married a man. Not a child, not a medical report, not test results. I married you.
James broke down, completely. For years he had feared this moment. For years he believed she would blame him, reject him, despise him. Instead, she was comforting him. Grace wiped his tears. Then she smiled through her own tears.
You should have trusted me. We were supposed to carry the burden together.
I know.
For a long moment they sat together.
I thought I'd lost you forever. I'm so sorry I never met you.
I know. I forgive you.
The walls between them were finally coming down.
Later that night, James looked at Grace. For the first time in years, truly looked at her. Not at her clothes, at her heart. And he realized some strangest person in the house had always been Grace.
As they sat together under the stars, Grace rested her head on his shoulder. James gently held her hand. Neither said a word. Some healing doesn't begin with grand speeches, sometimes with truths. And for the first time in years, the truth had finally set them free.
A miracle changes everything. Just when James and Grace begin rebuilding their marriage, unexpected news arrives that leaves the entire family in tears of joy.
Grace, we're having a baby.
A miracle, James.
I love you.